I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Shelby County Supervisors is Tuesday, February 7th. Does anyone have any conflict of interest, you guys, on the agenda today?
None.
Okay.
Bryce.
Oh, yes.
Compensation board.
For sure.
Okay. You do have a conflict there? Okay. Okay, I'll make that note. With that, any additions to the agenda, Mark?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion approved. Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Bryce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Chance to look over the minutes from January 17th. Any corrections, changes, Mark?
No, sir. We published them.
Have a motion to approve the minutes from 17th as presented.
Motion?
Motion by
Second.
Bryce, second by Charlie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Everybody had a chance to look over the February 2nd posted claims.
Yes.
Any questions?
Motion approved.
Motion by Charlie, they're approved. Second by Bryce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Shelby County Chamber monthly report. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
Todd?
Yes, it's,
You brought the sunshine today?
so you can thank the chamber for the weather.
There you go.
You can keep it up. Or,
We'll try. I only have so many chips I can play. Just a few items to remind you of, starting with on February 17th, that Friday night at 5 o'clock, we're having our chamber banquet, the annual awards banquet. So that's where we give out the Business of the Year, New Business of the Year, Nonprofit of the Year, and also the Citizen Volunteer of the Year award. And this theme this year is Run for the Roses. We've had a lot of great donations for the auction, so we're really looking forward to a really enjoyable night. We're down to about 20 seats, so just a reminder to folks that if you're thinking about coming, give us a call, and we'll make sure that we get you some seats reserved.
And that's the country club, right, Todd?
That's at the Country Club, yeah, a little different venue. And speaking of different venues, then also a reminder that the following day, Saturday the 18th, will be our legislative coffee for February. That'll start at 10 o'clock, but it's being hosted by the Farm Bureau, and they're also sponsoring it. So that particular legislative coffee will be at their offices at 908 6th Street instead of out at the Chamber of Commerce. And then after we get through the hotel motel tax resolution that's on the agenda today, then our office will be issuing a letter out to all of the common users of the hotel motel just to remind them that those applications now need to be coming through our office. And that'll be for the next meeting. That'll be in April would be the next meeting. We'll need to have those applications in by the end of March. But to just, I think most of them know, but just as a reminder, we're going to send them out a letter that not only covers the fact that the applications go through us, but some of the additional ways that we put into the guidelines as to how that money can be used. So,
Okay.
hope to see a lot of applications coming in because we've got plenty of money to spend and we want to have a lot of really cool events in Shelby County through the summer. So, all right. Other than that, it's February, so I don't have a whole lot going on. So it's banquet, banquet, banquet.
You just stay there because we're going to move on to the next
Okay.
agenda item, hotel motel tax. So we have a change here with the makeup of how hotel motel tax will be moving forward. Mark, I'm not on that board, but you probably want to get into that? We have a resolution before us.
So what is taking place is a couple of different changes. One is that, as I was saying, now the application process and the payment process for, once people have completed their event, their paid bills to be reimbursed for the hotel motel tax that they've been approved for, will all go through the Chamber of Commerce now rather than through Mark. Mark will still be involved, but we'll be the ones who are handling all the money. And then the only other change is we did make the committee a little smaller. We removed a couple of the resident positions that were on that committee. That'll just make it easier for us to get quorums together because we went from down to 5 now on the, so we still have a representative from the Supervisors Board. We still have a representative from the Chamber of Commerce, and then we have Harlan business person, and then we also have a Shelby County business person, and then we have a city council member. So we still, we
As
still have
voting members.
Yeah, those are the voting members, and then supporting members are like myself and Mark and Gene Geddes, and Alan Morris comes a lot, and, the folks who have just been around it for a while to help support any questions that may come up from the committee.
Would you go through the members again, please, Todd? The Harlan City Council
There's
representative,
a city council
Board of
representative,
Supervisors rep,
mhm,
a rural business owner,
rural business owner,
and Harlan business
Harlan
owner.
business owner, correct.
That's 4.
And then a Chamber of Commerce board member.
Chamber board representative, and these 2 are not.
Yeah, we eliminated
Okay.
the residents.
That's awesome.
And those are always the hardest ones to fill too, to get somebody to
And-
be on the committee
And to get them to attend,
and to get them to attend. Yeah.
because they just said yes.
Exactly. So, but nothing's changed in regards to the timing. It's still a quarterly meeting. So it's January, April, July, and October. And so we have kind of made it easier to get your applications in. So before we had it like the middle of March, say, for the April meeting, we're gonna let people get it to us, just get it to us in March anytime. That'll work.
And then, nothing's changed with the county. 100% of our revenues that Shelby County receives will be going to the hotel motel tax funds. And 100% of it will be turned over for them to award as grants.
For tour.
That has not changed since 2003.
And as this resolution being passed, then what Mark's gonna do is he's gonna hang on to the funds that cover any application that's been previously approved.
Yep, and we will handle all those because, it's just easier.
And then,
Transition's easier.
and then he'll forward the balance to us. We're going to,
Us being the chamber.
us being the chamber, and then we're going to open a bank account, of course, for that, and then we'll have 3 signatures on that bank account. We'll have myself, we'll have Carol, the administrative assistant, and we'll have whoever our committee chair is on that signature.
Okay. You guys have any other questions? No. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-10 for amendments to the hotel motel tax?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Charlie, second by Darren. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Sorry. You're new enough yet. Excuse me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Sorry about that. Next on the agenda, thanks Todd.
Yep.
Jake Holloway, safety coordinator. We have a lightning safety policy for under consideration. Good morning, Jake.
Morning, gentlemen.
Hi, Jake.
All I got is, you guys need a copy of it, or?
I have a copy.
Right. Yeah, I think I've seen it, but I'll take it.
This is a new policy.
New policy that I wrote up, I think it's something good for the employees to be able to take shelter in case of a lightning storm or any kind of storm. Just looking for a motion to put it into the safety handbook.
And you ran this by the safety committee? Does this come out of a recommendation?
Recommendation from the safety committee. I sent it to Galloway, who looked it over just for
Gotcha.
verbiage.
That was my next question. Thank you.
Yeah.
With comp also?
Yep.
Looked at it?
Yeah, I did see that because they said those were very well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and they didn't, I looked for something to go off of and no one really had anything, so I kind of just wrote it up myself and sent it to get a blessing on them, so,
Okay. Okay. This would go into effect?
immediately.
Okay.
So we don't
Okay.
have too many storms nowadays, but,
Yeah, that way it gets out to everybody.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Or this part of the season, I guess I should say, so, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the lighting policy then?
Motion?
Motion by Bryce, second by Charlie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. Next on the agenda, county engineer report. Resolution 2 resolutions before us today.
So the resolutions are for the recent lettings we had, January 18th, F24 from Linden Road over to Irwin, and the other one is pavement patching on M16 from Shelby up to F32. This is authorizing, awarding the contract and authorizing the county engineer to sign the contracts. But when the DOT went to Doc Express, it's an all-online system. It's very cumbersome to get signature authority. It takes about a month, actually. So all 99 counties do these resolutions to allow the engineer to execute the contract for the board. I do have the apparent bids. So for apparent number 80, which is the pavement, Western Engineering got the bid at $4,130,763. Our estimate was considerably lower than that. We were about 3.3 million. Inflation, and I think there's a lot of work stagnating the market right now with all the new money. So, but as I say that,
Don't really have a lot of choice, do we?
right, no, I would recommend approving both of these and moving forward. 10 Point Construction got the M16 patching for $199,241, and our estimate on that was $430,000. So
that was considerably less.
right, right. So I'm not sure
Okay.
what the swing in that, aside from we get apparent bids, and there must not have been a lot in the patching numbers, so they were inflated. If you do 15 miles and there's a lot of patches, you're going to get it for a lot cheaper than 2 miles and 5 patches in the 2 miles. So
A couple, well, one real local and the other one's pretty local.
yes, yes. Yep. And I did see Western got Highway 59 from Harlan up to the county line. So hopefully we'll have a local plant somewhere close, and
Okay.
they won't be hauling out of Council Bluffs. So
Okay.
that'll be nice.
Okay.
But my recommendation would be to award both of these contracts.
Okay. Any questions, guys, further for Brandon?
No.
Have a motion to approve both Resolution 2022-11 and 22-12 county engineer road projects.
Make that motion.
Motion by Charlie, second by Bryce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thanks, Brandon, you worked on that.
Thank you. For an update today, as of January 1st, I believe it came out in the omnibus bill from last year, but there's an all systems permit, overweight, oversize. Generally, we wouldn't approve overweight permits except for a case-by-case basis. Now the DOT has basically the authority to approve an all systems permit, so someone would pay $500. The counties retain $375 of that, and then they can be 12% overweight all the time on routes as designated by the county. I went through, we have 185 bridges, 91 are legal as of right now, 58 are not legal, and 36 need re-rated for these new weights. So, I mean, and that's a $200 to $800 expense to get those re-rated, depending. Some of them are pretty standard, they'll be $200. We've got some that don't have plans that were built by the Highway Commission in the 30s.
So how do you keep these overweight ones going over it? Besides being posted?
So we submit a map to the DOT, and whoever gets the permit is supposed to look at the map
Yeah, right.
and choose their routes, and that's one of my concerns. We're participating currently because we're supposed to participate right now, but we just have a couple miles that don't have bridges on our current participation. We have to have it fully implemented by January 1st, 2025 with basically excuses or a justification, I guess, as why some routes aren't allowed. Another one of my concerns is, days like today, we don't need 12% more on loads.
On the road, let alone the bridges.
Right, right. Currently, legal is 80,000 pounds for a 5-axle semi. It goes to 89,600. 6 axles, 90,000. It goes to 100,800. 96,000 for a 7-axle, and it goes to 107,520. So,
What's really frustrating is they allow these overweights. People a lot of times don't look at the posted for the bridge, and you're not there when they go over. Then next time you go inspect it, that bridge is severely damaged, and then the people that live there, the road is closed, the bridge is closed, or in fact it's down for a while, and it just causes a whole nother issue of problems. It's almost like taxation without representation, because then the locals end up paying to try to get it up over something the state did.
right. And I've been talking to surrounding counties. Most have just thrown something in there to say we're participating right now. It's something we can consider in the future. I mean, obviously we're gonna need to get 40 bridges re-rated now. So, I guess I was just bringing it to your guys' attention. I'm not looking for, we can talk later about it, but that's one thing that we're dealing with right now. I guess other than that, I did hear Todd say it's his fault that it's 50 degrees right now. So,
It is.
We'd like to see it froze.
right, I might be the only person that's not excited about that. But we're out in full force this morning while it's still frozen. Every morning that it's frozen, we'll have all the trucks out, maintainers out, trying to knock down some ruts and hit what we can. If you got a spot, please let us know, and we'll put it on the work order and try to get them as we can.
There's probably a road out there, not a road out there that doesn't need rock in some spot.
I would probably agree with that statement.
The whole roads don't need it, but
Right. Well, and we found a couple that, there's people hauling grain yesterday, and 2 miles are pretty.
and the livestock
tough
ones,
shape.
they get hit pretty hard because they don't have a choice.
Right. Currently, we're stockpiling. We're finishing up in Harlan. Going to put some more in Jacksonville and Kirkman just to build up the piles, because it's hard to depend on the quarries in the spring. Especially with the private guys, they don't want to wait in line. They're not making any money waiting in line, so they'll pull off and haul corn or do something else. So trying to get those built up, and obviously we're hauling them out today, but trying to do the balance of keeping them up. And then I guess just to bring it to your guys' attention, I got an email this morning about a bill of interest that Steve, you were talking about it with me, capping property tax, and then there was some local option stuff in there. I didn't get a chance to read it, but I can forward you all the email just to see what it means. And
Probably Tony too.
right, yeah, I can send it to you, Tony. It's kind of geared from a county engineer's perspective, but there's a lot of benefits.
Is that the one where it's capping the assessed value?
Cap and assessed value, and then there was some, I didn't look into the local option hard enough, but it was changing that considerably, it looked like. So
Okay.
that's all I have for today.
Okay.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the dissolution and resolution of the Workforce Development 2080. Rice is on that board, so I'll let him summarize what's going on here.
Well, when I got on that board, I was like, what in the world did I get into? It's a mess.
Region-wide, statewide, or what?
In our region, I can't speak for the statewide, but I think it's probably the same. We're in a region of 18 counties in northwest Iowa. And basically, the feds hand us down $900,000 for workforce development. And of that, they will only give you 10% for administration, to pay people to administer that $900,000. And they also said somebody from within the 18 counties has to take over this money and manage it, which would basically, right, a fiscal agent, which would basically come down to an auditor. And on a Zoom meeting 2 weeks ago, we had 11 of the 18 counties, and we all agreed that it'd be in the best interest to get out of this 2080 agreement because of the liability of handling the money.
Well, it also says whatever county agrees to do that accepts liability on behalf of the region.
Right.
The county does.
Right, yeah. So it's just setting people up for failure, I think. And it was unanimous. Everybody just thinks we need to get out of it, send a state of message to realign this, to refigure. So basically that's what's going on in a nutshell.
Are you hearing that from other regions around the state as well?
Haven't heard from any other regions. No, we're just, haven't heard just from our local region, people in our local region. So,
Well, it definitely isn't fair to that county that steps up to the plate and wanting to take it over.
nobody's gonna do that.
No, I wouldn't want you doing that.
No, absolutely not. Right now, well, the past couple years has been an office in Sioux City, Carroll, and Council Bluffs. And now they're gonna go down to one office in Denison. So,
Okay.
you remember a long time ago, we had an office here, right here in Harlan.
Yep, in the 80s.
So it's just
90s.
shrinking.
Yeah.
And, which I think is not good.
So the only concern I have if we get out of this is who's going to help the people that's there to serve? How's that gonna handle it?
They say that if we get out of it, one of the counties or one of the districts next to us can absorb our money and take care of the services.
What if they don't and the state has to step in?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they say the services will still be there.
Okay, that was my main concern.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so your recommendation is to pull out of the 2080 agreement?
Correct.
Okay. You gonna make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pull out of the
Okay.
2080 agreement with workforce development.
I'll second that.
Second by Charlie. Any other questions?
None.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, thank you. Urban renewal report, Mark?
Yeah, shortly before the meeting, I presented copies of this, and all it is a document that was done last August, and supervisors need to approve it. The state notified me that I had not had it approved by the supervisors, and so we need a date of approval for the final state records.
And
It tracks, the front page tracks, has the contents of all the back pages,
yeah,
and
so that's for that
It's just the cash flow.
$218,000.
yeah, that's normal, that's what it is.
It's what we've been doing in that $200,000 range, give or
Yeah,
take.
and it depends on where the money is and isn't on June 30th on that number. That number will jump up and down.
Sure.
Yeah,
But that's a projected estimate.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Do you have any questions? I know you're involved with that.
Yeah, you can see that $82,800, that was the cash fund balance. It's on the front page, $82,800 on 6/30/22. Don't get excited about the minus 218. Everything's good. I don't even understand the wording. I know where they come up with the 218, but I don't understand why they call it that.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the urban renewal report for 2022? Motion by Charlie.
Second.
Second by Bryce. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next on the agenda, consider appointment of Board of Adjustments. Tony?
Good morning.
Morning, Tony.
Basically, it's simple this morning. Tammy Hickey would be stepping down and Darren Hickey would be taking her place on the Board of Adjustment.
Okay. How many people are on that board?
I
Roughly.
believe it's 6. We still have an open position after Darren, but
Okay. You're trying to fill that yet?
yeah.
Okay.
The key is it has to be someone outside of the city limits currently, so it really narrows down our pool of available people, particularly people that are available.
Okay. And he's okay with that? Okay.
Motion approved.
Motion by Charlie,
Second.
second by Bryce, to approve Darren Hickey, Board of Adjustments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
sir. Compensation Board recommendation. Can't say his name right now. The chairman of,
Frank Powers?
no, who came to our board meeting.
Rod Baxter.
Rod Baxter was here a month, 6 weeks ago, talked about the compensation board meeting and what their recommendation were gonna be. We did not act on that then, and so that's why it's before us today. What's before us is the compensation board recommended 7.5% for all elected officials, except for the sheriff, which is at 16% because of the Back to Blue bill the state implemented last year, and that the board looked at last year, dividing that out, and so that was pretty set. Then we also need to approve the longevity for full-time employees. We have to do that every year with a recommendation from that board. The attorney and this board of supervisors are considered part-time, so we're not part of that longevity increase, and that needs to be stated.
So in the minutes, so the supervisors know I've got the recorder. This is what I intend to put in the minutes. The recorder, auditor, and county attorney salaries were considered first. I mean, separately. You do them first and then work on the others.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
And treasurer.
The way I understand it, Marcus can correct me if I'm wrong, if we adjust any of the elected officials except for the supervisors, then everybody has to come down accordingly. So if we bring down the elected officials, it's from 7.5% to say 5%, then the sheriff's increase from 16 would also come down the same percentage.
I haven't looked at the Back to Blue, but
That's the way it was.
I think that's correct.
You know that, Neil? Accurate. So they follow each other. The only ones that can move away from it are the supervisors.
Correct.
And we did that in the past.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Only thing I know, and I'll let to you guys, when I looked at the data that the board looked at, us supervisors are per population and ranking of the county, we're pretty much right where we need to be, as long as we stay up with inflation and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The rest of the elected officials, for the past few years, I know when the board has come to us, has shown that our ranking is around 65 in that 65 percentile. Most of them are in that 71 to 75. And so that's why the board, I know, has suggested they get a little bit more. For the county, from our union and what we're doing with non-elected employees, it's from 5.5% for the year to 6.5% for public safety and that. So it's right in that range. So just a little bit of information. I don't know what you guys think we should do, but
I think we should go with the board.
okay, all the way across.
Agreed.
Yep.
What about supervisors?
Well, we talked about that a few weeks ago. 5%.
5%.
Okay. So do I have a motion then? Supervisors at 5%. All the elected officials are as presented then at 7.5 and 16 for the sheriff?
Can't do 16 at the same time.
I have to
Bryce can't.
abstain.
You gotta do the sheriff separate.
Okay. Okay. So we'll 5% for the supervisors and 7.5% for the elected officials except for sheriff. Do you have a motion for that?
Make that motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Do I have a motion for 16% for sheriff?
Motion.
Motion by Charlie, second by Steve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bryce abstained. Motion carried. And then also the approval of the longevity for the full-time elected officials except for board of supervisors and the county attorney.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Bryce, second by Charlie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thanks everyone for their contribution with that. Next on the agenda is Summit Carbon Solutions representing and addressing Board of Supervisors. Good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
A little bit warmer outside, so that's nice. I guess for me.
Morning. Morning. Morning.
So I have a couple things to hand out here, and then I'll kind of introduce us all, if that's okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so I'll just start by reintroducing myself. So my name is Kaylee Lingrell. I work for Turnkey Logistics. I am the stakeholder relations manager, so my primary job is going around boards, giving informational presentations, updates, and answering questions. With me here today, I have Grant Terry. He's one of our project managers in Iowa. Isaac Razoo, he is the construction manager in Iowa. And then I also have Riley Gibson, who you guys are probably pretty
Been here a few times.
Yes. So he's the relationship manager for Turnkey, and he works pretty closely with Mr. Burmeister for, road crossing permits, driveways, stuff like that. So my plan today is to do kind of a similar thing as what I usually do. So I'll go through some updates. We can do some Q&A. But before I get to the update, I kind of wanted to go over one of our newer handouts here. This one was called Pipeline Facts. So safety, obviously, still a big concern. So what we're trying to do is go through some of the PHMSA regulations. Obviously, there are a ton, but we just want to highlight some of them and then tell you guys what Summit Carbon Solutions is doing regarding those. So we'll just kind of run through this, starting with number 1. So we are regulated by PHMSA, which is part of the DOT CFR 195, so that's transportation of hazardous liquids by pipeline. And then just moving on to number 2, one of the requirements, the pipe must be made of carbon steel, low alloy, high strength. Summit Carbon Solutions, we are going to use a high carbon steel pipeline, 100% made in the US. So that falls within those guidelines. Number 3, this one's really important, public awareness. There is actually an entire section in PHMSA dedicated to public awareness. So if you haven't had a chance to look through that, this is just one portion of it. But we are required to educate the public and government organizations. So one of the things that we've done, obviously coming to these county board meetings, we try to do them quarterly. We've done tons of open houses, met with government officials, different things like that. We're also a part of the CORE program, which I think I may have talked to you guys about that last time, but just a summary of that. We've actually already attended a meeting, but once we're in operation, we'll continue doing this. But it's basically where the pipeline companies like New Star or anything, Summit Carbon Solutions, they come and meet with the county EMS. So we kind of work together, talk about best practices, stuff like that. We'll also continue to do trainings. So it's not like we're just putting this pipeline in the ground and running, We'll be around and we'll continue to do trainings.
So when do they do the training with the EMS? Is that started already?
Not yet, so that's going to come later on. I know we've been working on the dispersion study, and then our trainings will be based off of those models. So that's when we'll start. I think probably once construction. Grant, if you want to speak to that.
I'll speak to it a little bit.
Okay.
Our regulatory compliance director, his name is Rod Dillon. He's the one that's leading that leading that effort as far as the community education when it comes to your police, EMS, firefighters. And typically what that training is going to look like is as they're formulating the emergency response plan that's going to be tailored for every individual county that's affected by the project, he's going to be setting up those trainings once we're in construction, getting closer to commissioning, when all of the variables that go into an emergency response plan for pipelines of this magnitude would be solidified at that point. Once they know the full individual capabilities of every county, and then again all the variables of the line itself, such as where block valves are going to end up, and the capacity that's going to be flowing through your line in your specific county, and they pair that with talking with Rod on it, a couple different scenarios, which would be time of the year, atmospheric conditions, and plume modeling, and then that's what he's essentially going to bring and help educate your individual responders here in town. So it'll be a little bit closer as we get towards and into construction.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we'll move to number 4, I think is where I need to pick up. So PHMSA requires that there be at least 12 inches of clearance between our pipeline and anything else underground. So our best practice is to be 24 inches of space between, but obviously it's a case-by-case basis. We hope to have 24, but at the very least you'll have the 12 inches because that's required by PHMSA.
Except for tile lines.
Yes, tile lines, it's a little bit less. I don't remember the exact, there is a regulated amount of inches, but I'm not exactly sure if it's between, yeah, I don't want to say a number and tell you wrong, but it does list it specifically if you go and look up that code that's right there next to number 4. So number 5, inspection of right-of-way. So each operator shall, at intervals not exceeding 3 weeks, but at least 26 times each year, inspect the surface conditions. So our standard practice would be to use aerial imagery. So that's basically flying the line every 2 weeks. And that would be by plane, not drone. We've had that question a couple of times, but just so you know, that would be by plane. Number 6, assessment intervals. So 5-year intervals not to exceed 6 to 8 months. We have to assess the pipeline's integrity. So this is where the inline inspection tools would come into play. So we would send those into the line. They would check for different things like any corrosion, dents. I think it can even test the amount of CO2 that's in the pipeline, even if has been depth of cover lost. So they're very sophisticated tools that we'll use to go in and check the integrity. Lastly, number 7, that is all about the block valves. So I think we probably looked over this last time, but just to show you, you can see the block valves on your map here, the little red ribbons. That's just an extra safety measure, so we'll have them no more than 20 miles apart across the line. So no matter where you're at on this pipeline, 10 miles on either side of you, you're at least 10 miles on either side of you, you're gonna have a block valve.
Ain't they like 15 here in our county?
I'm not exactly sure, so it looks like we have...
That's what I counted there when I seen the 2 battles. There were about 15 apart.
Yeah, it looks like we have a little over 24 miles and there's 2, so
Okay.
that could be correct. Let's see, okay, so the last thing kind of want to go over is this little map here of Houston, Texas. So we really put this in here just to kind of show 2 different things. So there has been a little bit of concern about, well, can our communities expand once you put this pipeline in? Houston, Texas is a great example of how pipelines do not deter growth. They actually do the opposite. So you guys probably know Houston has really embraced becoming an energy hub. It's brought a lot of jobs and wealth to the community. And you can see, I mean, you can barely see the ground because there's so many pipelines there. I think that kind of speaks to the safety too, and how the regulations are working, because with that many pipelines in the ground, if our regulations weren't working, state and federal, we would be hearing about incidents a ton. So just putting this in there for your knowledge if you want to take a look, because it could be helpful. So
I looked at that. How many of these are CO2 lines?
So in Houston, I don't know, there's a legend here. I don't think Houston has any CO2 lines.
No
but
CO2 lines here.
They are regulated, CO2 are regulated
Right.
the same.
That's what we're talking about here, is CO2. We have
Yes.
hazardous pipelines for I think 47,000 across Iowa, but none of them are CO2. So it doesn't even follow under the same definition of hazardous pipelines for 479B. I mean, natural gas lines are not even included in this. And another reason, Houston, Texas doesn't have any zoning ordinances. So that's what happens when you don't have zoning ordinances. So
I'll move on to the update, just to let you guys know where we're at and where we're going with the project. So we do still hope to start construction in summer of this year. That's all pending the IUB permit. We will not start construction until we have our IUB permit, until we have all our county permits. But we still hope to start construction in summer of 2023. So as far as land acquisition, in the county, we are at about 54% of easement miles acquired in Shelby County. In the state, we're at about 66%. And then as far as permitting...
Did you say 54 for Shelby?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And state what?
66.
Okay. Thank you.
And then as far as permits go, I know Riley submitted the crossing permits to Mr. Burmeister last week, I believe. So just so you guys know, that's where we're at, and then we'll move on to driveways probably next. And that's really all I have for updates. If you guys have any questions, these guys are a great resource. They have a lot of knowledge, so.
How deep will the pipeline be?
So in the fields, it's a minimum of 4 feet, but that's negotiable with landowners, yeah.
I'm just wondering how it'll work, because tile lines are at 5 foot usually. If you come in at the same height, how does that work?
So that's all previous negotiations with the landowner, they have a pretty good idea how deep they are. If they think they're 3-4 feet, we know we're gonna be at least a minimum of a foot below them, so we'll make that negotiation per landowner. And so if they're at 4 foot, we're gonna be 6 feet deep, roughly, you know.
So then what do you do? Because I know there's quite a few landowners who don't know exactly the depth. They know about where their tile line is, but not exactly. What if you're coming along at, whether it's 4 or 5 feet, and he's dead on, then what do you do?
We gotta back up and redig. We gotta make it deeper. We have to be underneath their tile line. So let's just say we got a trencher running through there, and the landowner thought, you know, he was at 3 foot, and we're going at 5 feet, and we're at 5 feet, and we hit a line, tile line. Well, we're gonna have to back up and get down underneath. So we'll make an assessment then. We might run the trencher, keep running that trencher at the same depth to make sure if we start hitting them at that depth, then we'll just go back, reset, and go another 2 foot deep. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You guys have any other?
If you hit a tile line, do you repair it, or?
Ellingson's repairing it. They're partnered with us. They'll be following along behind the construction team.
Okay.
So there's 2 repairs. So as they're trenching and digging, there'll be a temporary repair put in the ditch, which will consist of basically just solid pipe across the ditch to keep the water flowing, make sure the ditch doesn't fill up, cause erosion. And then after that, when we go to put our pipeline in the ground, they'll pull that, and then they'll come back with a permanent fix. And that will be put back, updated tile. If it's clay, we'll go back with updated perforated tile, and support it with sandbags, and also sleeve it across a ditch with a corrugated pipe, and then we'll backfill it after we take survey data on it. And all that data goes back to the landowner as well.
Say you hit an unknown cistern or well, will you guys plug that the way it needs to be plugged at your cost?
Yes, sir.
Unless it's an active one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a few questions. You stated here in your handout that Summit is working with landowners and community leaders with honest and transparency. If an 8-inch CO2 line like the one that's proposed to go through our Shelby County were to rupture, what is the size of the area of the blast zone and hazard zone?
There's too many variables to give you a number with that. What's the size of the puncture? Is it a complete rupture? What's the
Let's say it's a complete rupture.
Again, you're just want me to give you a number. I can't give you an accurate number. There's too
Don't
many
you have
variables to
data on
consider.
that?
Not to my knowledge. I know that we're in the
Really?
process of conducting the study.
Okay. How do we make decisions as community leaders then? If we don't know the dangers? That's our job.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you say there's transparency, we need to have that data.
So how do we know a couple hundred feet from a house is safe then? Or half a mile from a town, or any of
I
that?
mean, because we all know what happened in Mississippi.
So far,
It's a larger line than 1 over mile. So how do we protect our citizens? I mean, we're not just asking for it to be transparent. Without transparency, it raises the level of concern. And once transparency is addressed, then that level could come down.
Yes, sir. Again, that data will be present whenever they're doing the emergency response.
I know that's after the pipeline's in. Correct?
Once construction starts, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's before commissioning.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
I can't speak on, I can't speak
the
on,
horse got out of the barn.
on footage, but, you know, you do have 2 mainline valves in your county, and then you have one north, one south. These are all actuated valves, so if there was a rupture per se, the pressure release sensors would go off and they would shut immediately. This is 8 inches, so, I mean, without product flowing, that valve would shut within probably 15 to 20 seconds.
Sure, but you have 15 miles that has to empty out.
Correct. Well, it depends on which side it's on, yes, sir. I understand.
I mean,
But I'm just...
Because you stated in your flyer that you need to be 50 feet from a building
The only reason
Guys, I
it
don't
needs to be,
want to have this line be 50 feet from a school or a long-term care facility or a church when that's our responsibility. We need to have that data. I mean, I'm just going to read to you, I don't think you understand the roles the supervisors play. This come out of our supervisor's handbook, and it says the role of a supervisor. The county supervisor's duty is to protect and preserve the rights, the privileges, the property of the county and or its residents, and to preserve and improve the peace, the safety, the health, the welfare, the comfort, and convenience of its residents. I mean, and our board takes that really seriously, but we can't do our job if we don't have the proper information. And we're doing our due diligence asking for it. I mean, it's a hazardous pipeline. It wouldn't be called hazardous if it wasn't hazardous. And so we're just asking for it to be transparent, like you say you are, and get us that information so we know what we're dealing with.
Yes, sir.
So when will you be getting that information to us?
Again, during construction, during the education to.
I know, but the pipeline's already set.
I'm providing your answer. I understand your concerns.
Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all. Okay. Are you aware of our hazardous pipeline ordinance here in Shelby County that went into effect November 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Both Summit and landowners need to apply for conditional use permits with the county before signing easements, because it is law as of today, unless a court ever says unless otherwise. Have you been doing that?
I'm not going to speak to ongoing issues associated with your ordinance. It's not my place.
Have you participated in any of the negotiations with the landowners?
Me personally, no.
Okay.
Have you applied for any permits?
As far as with the
As
county?
far as the county ordinance is concerned?
Not to my knowledge, and I can't speak to that.
Is there a reason you're not when you know it's law?
Again, I'm not going to speak to our situation on the ordinance.
So you haven't been involved with any of the landowner negotiations?
Not in your county, no, sir.
Okay. Have you?
no, sir.
I haven't, no.
But you're representing Summit, and you're saying you don't know if they're following our ordinance.
Again,
Okay. Are your agents telling landowners that they deal with that you do not need a conditional use permit easement?
I can't speak to negotiations I'm not a part of.
Okay. Well, Tony, why don't you are you finished then?
Yes.
Okay. Tony's our planning and zoning administrator. He would like to give an update of what's going on with our conditional use permits and our zoning ordinance.
So just to summarize, the ordinance was adopted by the Board of Supervisors as local law back in November 11th. And basically the ordinance states that any agreements that would be entered into after that effective date, both the pipeline company, whoever the pipeline company potentially would be, as well as any landowners that would specifically be interested in signing an easement agreement, would need to get a conditional use permit from our board. And in mid-January, 3 landowners had easements recorded by Summit with new agreements that were signed after November. They were signed in late December, and then a week or so ago, 2 more were recorded. So 5 violation letters have been sent to landowners, and they've been notified that they are in violation of the local ordinance and could be subject up to $750 fine per day. And they've also been notified that to cure it, they need to essentially cancel the agreement with Summit, go through the permit process, and if they're able to acquire the permit and still wish to sign, then they could do that. They've also been told that a court order may invalidate the current easements as they stand. Letters were also sent to Carbon Solutions specifying the specific properties that were recorded and notifying Summit that they're in violation. And as of January 27th, considering that Summit would it be to have recorded something or applied at least back in November. We estimate over $50,000 in potential fines had already been incurred. Summit was also sent a cease and desist letter stating that the ordinance is in place and it is the law until we're told otherwise. Additionally, we sent out last week letters to all the potential landowners that we can identify that to our knowledge have not signed yet, notifying them that in order to comply with the local ordinance, they would need to get the conditional use permit before signing the easement with Summit. And the conditional use permit basically outlines the details in the ordinance with the various setbacks from cities, from hospitals and schools, from residences, and they're making a statement that they're in compliance with all of those setbacks. And of course, the Board of Adjustment is capable of making exceptions to the rule where practical.
There's a variance in place.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point of getting a conditional use permit. Here's the conditions, and those can be changed, but we have to have the information on why it would make sense to be less than a half mile from a town. You know, where are their assurances of their safety and so on? Why it could be closer to a school or so on. But we're not saying it can't be done, but show us how it can be done safely.
Or stay away of our economic development areas.
Correct.
So everybody's been put on notice that this is the law, it's been put into effect, so you need to abide by the law.
And Summit was notified as well that the current easements in place since November 11th may be invalidated by a court order.
You've really put the landowners in a bad predicament here. Anything else, Tony?
Those are the highlights.
Marcus, you have anything to add? No. Okay. Lastly, I just want to give an update. The Board of Supervisors, the lawsuit that was filed by Summit Carbon Solutions on our ordinance. Last Tuesday, we were giving a scheduling and trial setting order. The bench trial dates are set for January 16th and 17th of 2024 in Federal District Court in Council Bluffs. Okay. You guys have any other questions? Anybody else have any questions before we move on to the next part of the agenda? Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to recess our meeting. Thanks everybody for coming. We're going to have a budget workshop and go through our budgeting process here in a little bit. We got accountant coming in, so thanks everybody for today. Thank you.